Hey there, guys. Welcome to Confessions of the Idiots. Everybody wants to confess, but not everyone wants to hear them. Today, I am lucky enough to be joined in isolation by someone I'm a huge fan of, the great man himself, Mr. Andrew Hansen. Welcome.
Hey there, Sammy,
Hey there.
my number one fan. How you doing?
Yeah. So
good?
damn good. Number one. I've got there. Finally. I had to kick a lot of other people out of the way on that track, but I finally got there.
It's nice to do this way, isn't it? Because last time we did the podcast, we were in the same room.
We're in the same room, and you were sick of it. I could tell. You were like, "Is there a way that we could not be in the same room and do this?"
I was keen when the pandemic hit. I was really pleased because I thought next time I have to do that podcast.
You said it like that as well.
Yes, I won't have to be in the same room. But the thing I love about this is you get to see inside everybody else's rooms. Like I'm looking at you, and I assume you're at home.
Yes, yeah.
I get to see your place.
My place.
I get to see your joint.
I've got shelving. I've got a photo of Oliver Clark shaking his own hand just there.
Who doesn't
have that? Have you not got that? I can't see it on your walls. I can see owls.
Well, there are owls. Yes, I've got some of my wife Jessica's artworks up there. Owls and a dog.
Oh, they're great.
Lots of books. I've got the Oliver one in the next room because the Oliver that's like having the dogs playing poker. Everybody's got.
Of course,
Oliver
it's a
Clark
canvas. Yours is huge as well.
Oh,
yours takes over a few walls to wrap around.
That's right. Mine's a tapestry, like a medieval tapestry of Oliver Clark.
A mural
hands with him.
Yeah. And the books as well. Like all of you got a great book wall as well. It's looking fantastic. And files.
What do you think?
I love it. Very good colours.
All those books, Sammy, are for my 3-year-old. So, and they're the only books that we have in our place. Like I look like a literary person, but that shelf is actually full of
they're all picture
authors
books.
They're Hargraves, Seuss, all the great authors.
The huge ones. But have you got your own book, your own children's book on that shelf? Has that made it onto the shelf?
No. That's it's too old for a 3-year-old. I mean, our books are kind of age 7 to 10, so I've just had to give them all away.
Right. I hope you gave them away for money. I hope that's how you're doing it.
No, I'm desperately trying. No, you have to plug it. Nobody wants a book, I've noticed, Sammy. One of the interesting things I found about having written a book is honestly true, is whenever you talk to somebody about it, if they're interested, they always say, so how do I buy this book? Like no one knows how to buy a book.
It's a foreign concept now.
It really is.
Yeah.
And they seem quite amazed when I say, oh, you just go to a bookshop.
Yep. Or online. They sell books online as well. They sell most books online.
You have to add that as a second step because they look a bit confused. I find when I say, well, you go to a bookshop and they look a little bit confused. And
they say, how do?
Yeah, how do? How do one do that?
One do this. Do I drive there? How do I get there? I go, I'm not going to explain transport to you.
It is like that.
But the main question is basically, how do I do that? And what do you say after that? You explain what a bookstore is?
Well, I honestly, I have to end up sending them specific links to websites of bookshops saying, look, here is a bookshop called Dimox, here's the web page, you have to sort of end up doing that.
So your admin for selling a book is a lot, like the hours are probably not worth it.
No, that's it. But the vast work that you put into being an author is not in the writing, Sammy. It's in explaining to people
what a bookstore is.
That's right. What a bookstore is and how to buy a book.
So you're probably not going to go down that path again. I've got a little inkling that you're not going to continue down the path.
Oh, no, I'd love to. No, I would love to. I'd love to do another one. I think, but if I do another one, I'm going to print on the front cover instructions
on where to buy it.
But yeah, where?
I feel like it's too late then. I feel like the instructions on the book once they bought it are too late.
That's a chicken and egg problem, isn't it? Yeah, you pointed out the fatal flaw, Sammy, in my plan.
I'm sorry about breaking apart your big plan. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to poke holes in it straight away.
God.
I think it's a good plan. It's a good plan. I'll say that.
You think it's a good one?
Great plan. What have you been doing to keep yourself entertained in isolation, Andrew Hansen? You've got a podcast?
Wonderful. Look, I've got I'm doing a little podcast with a couple of the other guys from the broad umbrella that's called The Chaser. Anyone's in The Chaser nowadays. Sure. I mean, would you like to? Yes. Sure. Would you like? Yeah. What would you like to be? You can. Anyone can do it.
I'll do it.
So it's Dommy Knight and Charles Firth and me. We do a little podcast called The Chaser Report, which comes out once a week. And we've been told in no uncertain terms that the contract will be torn up if we don't get a certain number of downloads. So please,
oh my God.
I'm urging you to download, like the COVID app, could all Australians please do their duty and download my
I'll
podcast.
send you instructions. If any listeners want to at me and come at me, I will give you instructions.
Please do. Please do.
No, do not go to a bookstore is always step number one. You don't even have to. You don't have to leave your home for this podcast. So this is a weekly podcast, Andrew Hansen.
Yeah, look, it's a week. Yes, just catching up. It's topical stuff mostly, but a little bit of stuff about our lives as well. You know, what we're doing under lockdown, all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Great.
For instance, you know, last week I had a look at. Actually, speaking of children's books, last week I had a look at children's books about the coronavirus because they exist, Sammy. They
already?
Actually, yes, they do. They do, yes,
wow.
yes. There's one that's been narrated by Natalie Portman, actually.
Great.
And it's about as entertaining.
Is it just called Go the Fuck to Sleep? Is it a reiteration on that?
Well, I was just about to say, yes. It's about as entertaining as the Star Wars movies she was in. Yeah. So it is. It will put your kids to sleep.
Great. And so are there lots of books at the moment on coronavirus?
Look, I've only dug up two. Do you want? I mean, how many do you want there to be?
Yeah, well, I'm thinking in excess of 10.
There shouldn't be
in excess of 10.
I kind of think there shouldn't be any. You know, I don't know if tiny kids need to.
No, I think when we go to a bookstore, I think there should be fiction, non-fiction, coronavirus. Like it should, and then it should be broken down into coronavirus fiction and coronavirus non-fiction. I think that's how the world should be from now on in every bookstore.
Well, that's if you know how to find a bookstore, Sammy. I mean, not many people do, in my experience.
It's all very confusing. But today I've got some online confessions, Andrew Hansen. Two online confessions for two wonderful people that will make you feel a hell of a lot better being in isolation. And hopefully you'll be able to solve these problems because we've got Taylor and Steve today, Andrew Hansen. So Taylor writes, Taylor and Steve.
All right. What's the issue?
So Taylor writes, I did a bad thing that I think about every day that goes by. I don't need to tell you that this happened a long time ago. So did you need to be told that, Andrew, or did you not have any idea who the fuck Taylor was before I introduced him a moment ago?
I feel that Taylor doesn't need to tell me any of this, probably.
Next confession.
Well, yes.
You always get two sentences in and go, you don't need to tell me anything, to be honest. Go
on, Taylor. Even though you don't need to tell me.
You don't need to, but he will. So it says, I don't need to tell you that I'm 25 years old now. So he also doesn't need to tell us that.
Well, I kind of feel like if he doesn't need to tell me these things, why is he telling me?
At great length as well. He's gone on 3 sentences about all the things he shouldn't be telling us or doesn't need to tell us.
I know, especially if they're irrelevant. I mean, it depends what the story is. Do you know, Sammy, whether it's relevant that
I do know that it's relevant that this happened 10 years ago because he was 15 years old at the time. So that is relevant. We did need to know that. I did not know this about Taylor. Before I opened up my web browser, I did not know this about Taylor. There's a lot I don't know about Taylor.
It's amazing how you and I know so little about Taylor. Are we just ignorant? Are we out of the loop?
Want
we're
to
out
know?
Of the Taylor.
Yeah,
we're out of the Taylor loop.
We're out of the Taylor loop. It feels weird, but we're going to get caught up. We're going to catch up very quick, Andrew Hansen. And this happened over 10 years ago. 10 long years ago. Now, you probably need to know a little bit more than I'm letting on right now. So were you happy to let it go after that, Andrew? Were you like, oh, all fine, seems all good, next confession?
You probably need to know a little bit more.
Yeah.
Maybe we do need to know a little bit more.
Tiny bit.
Just
scary.
Not much. I'm not asking for much more. I'm pretty happy to leave it as is.
Yeah.
Just that Taylor...
I'm more, where did you fuck up? Rather than, this is how old I am, but you probably know this. This is my name, but you probably know this too. You know, we actually have no context or nothing. And he said, I probably need to let you know a little bit more.
I'm worried though, Sammy. Should I be loved? Because maybe what happened to Taylor is is really sad and awful. I mean, should we? No. Oh, right. Okay.
Also, you know my sympathy level, Andrew Hansen, because this is called Confessions of the Idiots.
Yeah. True. True. Probably something really awful did happen to Taylor, and you're just.
I'm just a cold-hearted person.
I'd say so, Sammy.
I wasn't the craziest of kids. I was fairly normal kind of kid with the world ahead of me. It's nice, isn't it?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Like most kids.
Like most kids. But, well, as we know, the earth is flat, famously. So the whole world is always in front of you. Isn't it? The world is famously flat.
The world's in front of you.
Yeah.
At least he was facing the flat world.
I love telling people when you first meet them, when you sort of go, there are only a few things in life that are certain, and you bring one of them up and you go, and, of course the earth is flat. Because how would you see the house across the street, Andrew? Do you know this?
If the earth, it's true. You'd have to look down, wouldn't you? That's a good point you make there.
Yeah. I've converted you. That's what I did. That's always my mission. This isn't even a podcast. This is just me trying to convert people. But of course, when attracting girls, I had a long way to go.
Right.
Everybody at the age of 15 is desperate to please. Was that you, Andrew Hansen, at the age of 15? Were you desperate to please, do you think?
I've always been desperate. It's not just 15, Sammy. It's not just 15. Look at me now. I'm coming on comedy. I know. I'm coming on as a guest on a podcast. Of course, I'm desperate to please. I mean, we're all
desperate to please.
Oh, yeah. I think we are in this business anyway. I mean, we're not well-adjusted people. I think there are a lot of Taylors among us, and I feel for Taylor because I was desperate. Yeah,
You've got a Chris Taylor in your life.
We do. There's a Chris Taylor. I'm always desperate to please him. I look up to Chris. I think he's a very good writer. I'm desperate to please everybody.
Yeah.
I really am. So I understand where Taylor's coming from here.
So you can relate to Taylor at the moment. So let's see if you can continue to relate to Taylor as he goes on. We all want to appeal to ladies, but a lot of the time that doesn't happen. Failed attempt after failed attempt can sometimes leave you a little down in the dumps, of course. We've all been there.
That is so true. The number of failed attempts I've had is just dismal.
Yeah, and they can't run away from you because the earth is flat. You'll always be able to see them.
Unless they go into the house across the street, Sammy, of course. But,
I love it that this is the first time I brought up being a flat earther on the podcast.
I'm a bit awkward. It's awkward. I'll give you that. I'm kind of wanting to wind it all up now. Ever since I didn't realise that this was a flat Earth podcast. I sort of thought I'd come on to some sort of internet.
The spherical one. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was so Taylor is very worried about this. So he's saying that obviously when you like someone they don't like you can get down in the dumps.
That's true. So he's okay.
This is still all stuff, Andrew Hansen, that we don't need to know.
Do we need to know this?
We don't really need to know it.
We don't need to know this.
No, I would take a big red pen through most of this.
Maybe it's like bonus material. It's a sort of bonus confessions. Aren't they thrown in?
Yeah, it gets real dire when I'm in isolation. It's like, all right, bonus confession come from. There's a few confessions at the moment that I've got right at the bottom of the barrel that are like, I ate the last muffin, lol, and that's all the confession is. So when I bring you on, Andrew, and it's that, you'll know.
Yeah, don't give spoilers to your own confessions, Sammy. I actually wouldn't mind. I'd tune in for the muffin episode. Actually,
that's episode 250.
I actually wouldn't mind hearing them. I actually wouldn't be surprised if Taylor's confession doesn't.
Of course, it might end like that.
This happened 10 years ago, and I had this big crush on a girl, but I've got to confess, I ate the last muffin.
The end. There was a kid a whole year older than me whose name was Zach. Zach was the cool one, no matter where you were. He was even cooler than most people twice his age at the time. So he's even cooler than 30-year-olds.
Those kids, man.
Yeah.
There were some kids like that
really?
At my school. There was a kid in my high school who was the spitting image of Tom Cruise.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, now that may
Same
not...
height as well.
No, actually, he was even better. So he had one up on Cruise because he was a normal height guy with Cruise's looks. Now, you've got to remember, this is way back, like a long time ago.
This isn't Tom Cruise now.
It was when Tom Cruise was, not regarded as Tom Cruise as he is today. Like when I was at school, he was the kind of movie star that all the girls went nuts up. I mean, I remember we were shown some... the movie The Outsiders in class.
Sure.
one day, and it's got this scene where Tom Cruise walks out of the shower, and he's completely naked, and all the girls were just beside themselves, and he trips in this. He sort of trips over, and the camera moves and almost catches the cruise missile, but not quite. And the girls, I remember everyone was seated, and all of a sudden, all the girls were standing. They were standing up because they were sort of, they had this kind of instinctive reaction.
To get a closer look?
Yeah, that's right. To try and look up and try and get a look, even though it was on a screen.
Right.
You know, it was just instinct.
So you think that maybe Zach is kind of like a young Tom Cruise?
I feel like, well, no. I feel like not Cruise himself. No, I feel like Zach is like the guy in my year
who was like Tom Cruise,
who looked like Tom Cruise.
Sure. And all the girls are infatuated with him.
Well, that's right. And not only that, but he sort of had this adult. He did seem like he was twice his age because
a bit of swagger.
You know, he did. Well, yeah. And the fact that he looked like a Hollywood movie star, even though he was 14.
Yeah. Did he later become a Scientologist?
I took an interesting question. I don't want to defame anybody by saying yes or no, but because I don't know.
Well, I've already had to go at Flat Earth for the whole thing, so I mean, I think we're fine. Yeah. No, you haven't said anything, and I know you've been very careful.
Yeah, I don't want to go into that.
You're trying to get more hits on the podcast. You don't want to start excluding Flat Earthers.
Desperately. Oh, yes, actually. In fact, I'm happy to devote this week's episode to Flat Earth theories.
That would be amazing.
If it helps get down.
This episode or your episode?
My podcast.
I
yours
thought
is
you were
already
devoting mine.
No, yours is already
I've gone that way. Yeah. That's just my brand. All right. So he's worried about Zach at this point because, Zach is obviously a lot cooler than everyone. He even had the attitude that he didn't care about anything, which I strongly believe makes you even cooler.
Oh, it does.
It does, doesn't it?
It does. It's that arrogance.
Yeah. Smoking, probably leather jacket, I imagine.
I think that's right. And anxiety is the opposite of coolness. Like people who are anxious are incredibly uncool.
Yeah.
Not
polar opposite.
Sort of, really unattractive. But funny though.
Funny though. Can
there's
be
also,
funny.
I think there's also a relationship in funniness there too, isn't it? Because cool people are not necessarily all that funny, I find.
No.
Anxious people are hilarious.
Anxious people are great because they never know. They always want approval, and they're so worried of what everyone else is thinking. So of course they want to be funny. And I think Taylor is going to be the funny guy, and Zach's going to be the boring guy in a leather jacket and smoking.
You think it's headed that way? It does feel that way, doesn't it?
I think it's heading to Scientology as well, just quietly.
Quite
just quietly. I'll give you that scoop. So day in, day out, I'm wondering what the hell I can do to impress people. He does sound anxious. And one night, Zach calls my landline and asks if I want to come out. Landline, straight away.
Okay. Landline here.
So this is a little while ago, I'm imagining. This isn't in today's age.
It's obviously 10 years ago.
10 years ago. Yeah. I had a landline 10 years ago. I think it's fine.
Yeah.
Zach and I are friends, but not best friends. He tells me to come with the boys to have a look at an old beach shack. Little did I know, he wanted to head down there so everybody could see him piss on the shed to impress Eliza, the hottest girl at our school.
He certainly knows how to impress, doesn't he, this Zach?
Anytime I've ever wanted to woo a girl, Andrew, I have found the closest beach shack, which isn't hard to find because obviously I can see everything on this flat earth of mine, and I will find that beach shack and I piss on it.
Look, dinner. These are the classic things. Dinner, flowers.
Yeah.
Drive it home.
Yep.
And then walk to the beach shack and piss on it. And
even if we're not near the beach, we'll do a quick 3-hour walk down to the closest beach shack.
That's right. Well, you wonder how people inland do get married, don't you?
Yeah.
If they don't have a beach shack to fall in love next to while pissing
show your affection. Yeah. To truly show how much you care.
That's right. I mean,
it's how you fall in love, of course, pissing on a beach shack. So Zach is pissing on a beach shack to impress Eliza.
So Eliza is watching this urination spectacle.
Well, so no, so she wasn't there. She was meant to be there, but she hasn't actually. We find out she hasn't actually turned up.
Oh, well, she doesn't know what she's missing. She doesn't know what she's missing.
All that piss on the beach shack.
That's really sad.
It is sad. Zach got pretty over it. We'd all ridden down there, and Eliza was nowhere to be seen. Apparently, she'd been grounded that night. So we were all going to just go home. All feeling a little deflated, I guess something took over me. I wanted to impress Zach and be a bit cooler with the girls. So, all right, so what do you think he does to impress the boys? What do you think he does? And be a little bit more popular with the girls?
Right, well, he's not going to follow Zach's lead, is he? And
he's not going to
piss on the beach shack.
He's not going to piss on the beach shack.
Okay, well, because you've got to prepare for that. You've got to drink a couple of litres. Of course. Before you arrive.
And then you might get stage fright. We know he's anxious. He might not want to pee straight away.
True. Yeah. So he wants to impress the boys and the girls.
But there's no girls there that I know of. He's just mentioned the boys. So what do you do to get a bit of cred with the beach shack? What do you think you would do?
Oh, look, what's a boy type of thing? I mean, I'm trying to picture what sort of social group this is too, because I don't think these are like my friends when I was growing up. I didn't have shack pissers in my...
Wow, that's a bold statement.
No, we used to try and impress girls by, coming up with hilarious dialogue.
Right.
Acting out amusing scenes that were beautifully shaped with a beginning, middle, and then a twist, and then a comic advance, and then, that was my kind of group of friends. No wonder we were unpopular. No wonder the Tom Cruise kid wasn't in my group of friends.
Well, he was down at the beach shack.
He was pissing on shacks. Yeah.
So you don't really know what you would do in this situation, Andrew Hansen.
Not me, but I'm trying to picture what are these kids like. I think these might be the sort of kids where Taylor's just going to try and push the shack over.
Yeah. Well,
he's going to do something like that. He's going to go, screw you, shack, for ruining Zach's night.
No, yeah, you're ruining
I'm going to shoulder barge this shack and just try and push it over. Something like that, or maybe break into the shack.
Well, you're pretty close. You're pretty damn close.
Right.
He's not going
to climb the shack.
He's not going to climb the shack. He's not going to piss on the shack. What he does
hang on, he's not going to set the shack on fire.
Of course he is. You got it.
He's going to set the shack on fire.
He's going to set the shack on fire. I got out a lighter that I'd taken from home, and as I was about to call out to the guys to turn back, I just threw it, and the whole beach shack went up in flames.
Oh, I think, I hope this story ends by Zach saving the day by pissing on the burning shack.
That would be incredible.
Just as Eliza comes over the hill as well. So she gets to see him piss on the shack and put the flames out.
Oh, what a heroic man.
Is this where it ends? I hope so.
Doesn't. Sadly not. I rode off as quickly as I could and caught up to the boys without them noticing that I wasn't there the entire time. The next day, all signs pointed to Zach as the kid that lit up the beach shack.
Well, that's true. He did. He was telling everyone
he was going to piss on it.
He was off to the shack.
Off to the shack. He's going to piss on it. And I never came forward. Never, ever. Zach is now 26. I'm 25. And I haven't said a word to anyone about what happened that night. He's in jail now for a completely unrelated incident. So he didn't get 10 years in the slammer for burning down the beach shack.
For a completely unrelated
It has to be unrelated. You can't go for pissing on a beach shack or maybe lighting it up. You can't go to prison for that, I'm pretty sure.
10 years in the slammer.
In the slammer for a completely unrelated incident.
Right. So he was pissing on some other sort of edifice.
Some other thing. But I kind of feel like going there and fessing up, telling him what really happened. I've been fine ever since. My life hadn't even really been affected, but I still feel like I've got a lot of growing up to do. And maybe this is the first step forward. Wow. So it comes from Taylor. Oh, wow. So Taylor has a lot of growing up to do, Andrew. You know that. I know that.
I know that now.
Yeah, there's a lot you didn't know about Taylor, but now you know a lot about.
I know. I'm glad I discovered that he was 25, because I think if he'd been 75 then that would make the story quite odd.
On his deathbed.
Because then his group of friends would have been 65. Like this would have been like the bowling club people would have gone to this beach shack
to piss on it.
To impress old Eliza, who would have.
Yeah. Well, that's very true. So, I mean, now that you know his age at the time, now you know he's 25 and Zach's now in the slammer for a completely unrelated incident. What do you think you would do, Andrew, in this situation? Do you think he needs to fess up or do you think he can just move on?
Oh, look, no, I think he's done the right thing, Sammy. I think this is a dark secret.
Of course.
And I think everybody will feel a lot better now that this is out in the open.
Yep.
Just, flapping around. I think he's come good. I was a bit worried about Taylor, to be honest, when I heard about this group of friends, and then when I heard that the kid he admires is now in prison, I would have thought, well, they need to be careful, these guys. But
they do, absolutely.
No, I think it's a good confession. It's a good confession, and I hope it brings some peace to Taylor and also to Zach. And I'd also be intrigued to find out what Eliza is up to nowadays. Do you think she's writing love letters to Zachy in prison to this very day?
Perhaps maybe she's still grounded 10 years later.
Well, we know Zach's grounded
by law.
Yes.
But, so what do you think? Do you think he does actually need to come clean to him and actually go to the prison and say the slammer, if you will, and say, this is what I did 10 years ago?
Look, I mean, he's already posted it on the net.
That's true.
And I don't know if Zach has online privileges.
Probably not.
Probably not. So in fact, I think he should. I think he should go and say, look, listen, Zach, I burnt down that shack that that you were planning to piss on, and it wasn't you. Poor old Zach.
Poor old Zach.
Maybe Zach's been falsely accused of everything he's ever done. Maybe Zach is in jail for the wrong reasons too.
Of course, and maybe it's up to Taylor to actually get him out.
If Taylor comes along and goes to court, maybe says to the judge, look. Zach's been falsely blamed for stuff his whole life.
Yeah,
Your Honor.
Yeah. So you think maybe Taylor needs to go to law school, become a lawyer, and spend his whole life getting Zach out,
trying to get Zach.
That's what he owes him for burning down that beach shack.
I think so.
Yeah.
The thing I want to know is, why is Zach in prison? You really want to know that, don't you? You want to know what's Zach done.
There were so many details we didn't need to know. We know all of those, but we don't know about what's really important. Which is hard. Well, I think we solved that problem. I think going to the slammer and fessing up to Zach is probably the perfect way because we've got one more confession, Andrew, that comes from Steve. Steve writes,
okay,
I'm a married man with a very regular job.
This is going to go downhill, isn't it?
Of course it is. If you start that strong.
Yeah, he's starting well.
Yeah. I'm a doctor and I've always been a normal person, an easygoing kind of man. So do you think, Andrew, that he's going to continue being a normal person?
I pray that is the story for his sake. For his sake, I hope it just says yes, and I've continued doing so every day of my life.
And I feel good about being me.
Yep, and that's my confession. But
my wife even describes me as steady a lot of the time, which I think is just lovely.
Steady, yeah, okay.
Yep, you're steady. I've just hit 40 and have never stepped a foot wrong. I've always been the kind of sturdy man you can depend on. I'm not
sturdy. Sturdy and steady.
Sturdy and steady is the big two S's.
He's like an old piece of furniture.
He is, okay. Yeah. Beautiful, man. I'm not a big drinker and I've never really been a party goer. No, he's not a party goer if he says party goer. I think that's a great way of telling someone doesn't go to a lot of parties. I'm a big party goer.
That's true, isn't it? Yes. Yeah, I don't always bust into the hot shoe shuffle.
Never even touched a drug in my life.
Right.
No, that's not true because he's a doctor.
Well, he's
talking prescription.
Yeah.
Everything I've ever done has been to support my family, a loving family who deserve the very best in life.
You think like a decent
actually
enough,
sounds right.
Sturdy
sort of guy. Sturdy. Yeah.
Yep.
But I do harvest a secret that no one can ever know about.
He harvests a secret.
He harvests a secret.
He's harvesting a secret.
He's harvesting a secret
out of the field. He's grown a secret in the cornfield,
and
now he's going to harvest it.
And that is every Saturday night I go out dancing.
What? What, unbeknownst to his family?
Yeah. Did you expect where that was going? Did you have any inkling, Andrew, that that's where that was going?
I had not the slightest inkling, and I'm so delighted that is the confession. You naughty doctor. You cheeky doctor.
Yes, that's right.
Dancing every Saturday.
I go out dancing.
He's like John Travolta in Saturday Night.
He looks forward to that every Saturday night. It's his whole life looking forward to that Saturday night dancing.
I wonder how he achieves this.
Wow.
Without his family knowing.
Well, he's gonna tell us.
Okay.
I've kept this a secret from my wife for many years now. I always pretend that on Saturday nights I'm on call, while after 9 p.m. I head out to the local club and dance the night away. So it's clever, isn't it?
That's what on call means.
That's what on call means. So if you have any doctor friends, you know that when they say they're on call, it means they might go out dancing.
Well, this is making me question my whole past because, you know, my dad's a retired doctor and I do remember him being on call.
On a Saturday night?
Well, frequently, yes.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure I seem to remember him turning up on Sunday mornings with the soles of his shoes looking rather scuffed. So
was he in a white suit? With an afro, a fake afro.
That's right. I did wonder why he returned.
Yeah, it's very strange.
Dressed as a disco fever star. I just thought he was on call, you know. And
that's what happens when you're on call.
Well, you know, it's a big night, tending to the patients.
Of course.
And maybe
that's what happens.
Changes your hair.
One thing leads to another. Yeah. I always pretend that on Saturday nights I'm on call, while after 9 p.m. I head out to the local club and dance the night away. I had the urge one night after watching Dirty Dancing and got in the mood. I suggested it to my wife and she laughed it off and told me she was going to check on the kids. So we never spoke about it again. I went out that night and found an old club while I danced all night long. Not drinking, no drugs involved. Just danced with a big erection well into the night.
No.
So you thought it was just harmless dancing, didn't you, Andrew? No.
Just danced with a big erection. Well, hang on. This is ambiguous wording, Sammy, because if you say I danced with a big erection, that can either mean that you've got one yourself, or it's like, you know, I danced with a partner, or I danced with a lady, I danced with a big erection, you know.
Yeah.
He's dancing with somebody else's big erection.
Big erection.
Quite possibly.
He's using it to aid his dance. A big erection. Well, maybe. As sort of a pole or a...
I just don't know if it's his own erection that he's talking about. It's what I'm getting at.
We're not to know. We don't know if it's his own erection, but he is dancing with one and he's having the time of his life.
He sounds like he's kind of got the wrong call. Perhaps he shouldn't be spending 6 days a week being a doctor. Maybe he should just do more dancing if he enjoys it.
If he loves it that much. There was nothing even remotely sexual about it. Just the idea of dancing in public made me rock hard as I powered through.
Nothing remotely. Was it one of those? Was it like a sort of holding in your urine erection? I mean, there's only two types. There's the sexy one, and there's the morning one,
the annoying one.
So he's going out with an annoying erection. Maybe
going out with an annoying erection because he's on call.
He'd prefer not to have the erection, but I mean, I assume that it's much easier to dance if you don't have one, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I imagine so. I don't think I've ever danced with an erection before.
No, I don't think I ever have.
Not at a wedding or I don't go out dancing. I've never. You know what's that Russian dance called where you get low and do the high kicks?
The Cossack dance. And you kick out the two legs to either side, and then I suppose if you had an erection, you'd have a flip thing to kick it up. Oh God! Imagine at the wedding, like just after the bridal waltz is finished, and they invite everyone onto the dance floor. The floor gets flooded with stiffies. If everyone
I'm like, no, not now, I can't do it right now.
Everyone was like this doctor.
It's now been going on for years, and I'm no closer to telling my wife or kids. You're not going to tell the kids about his erection, Andrew. Thank God for that.
Well, you wouldn't know. I mean, I think this is why he can't tell them. I assume, Sammy. Like if he didn't have this throbbing, raging boner, then he probably could tell them. Because it's an innocent enough story otherwise.
It is, without the erection.
It's only the erection's the only thing that makes it problematic.
It always is. I don't feel like I should tell them. They'll probably think it's the strangest thing, when in actual fact, it makes me ridiculously happy. It's a release for me after a strict week and at times extremely intense. I wonder how I could even begin to come clean about something like this. I fear now that it's been too long for me to tell the truth. Oh, Jesus Christ, I've gone too far with it now, and I don't know if I can ever tell the truth again.
Oh,
what do you think? That comes from Steve. Dr. Steve.
Dr. Steve.
Dr. Steve.
Look, Well, look, the first rookie mistake he's made, which seems to be a bit of a theme with the confessions on your podcast, is that they're posted online for everybody to see, and for you to broadcast in the form of a podcast to the entire world.
A thinly veiled podcast.
Yes, yeah. So I think there's a little bit of a slip up there from Steve.
Tiny slip up.
It wouldn't take much if you were Steve's kids and you were just browsing the net and you came across this story.
Yeah.
You might think, it's funny because my dad is on call every Saturday night too, and he comes home with a raging stiffy. So I wondered, maybe this is my dad. Look, how do you tell somebody, though, is the question, when it's gone on for too long?
And where there's a pleasure where you're not involving your significant other as well. Maybe she wants to dance too. Maybe she just, didn't want to dance in that moment when he first brought it up. And he thought, well, I guess I'll have this erection by myself. I guess I'll go and do the Koska? The
Cossack dance, I think.
Cossack dance.
Look, I could be wrong, but...
Well, maybe I'll go and do the Cossack dance by myself,
Yeah.
Like, at what point can you come clean about something that you like doing that you're ashamed of? It doesn't seem like he's ashamed of it, only ashamed of telling the people that he loves.
Well, he's clearly not ashamed of, doing it in front of the rest of the people in the old club that he found.
The old club.
Wonder why he went to an old one.
It's just got cobwebs and it's hidden away. It's very dark, no lights.
Not even operating anymore. He just broke in, danced around with the boner in the dark. Look, I see what you mean, because you're right. His wife has kind of been excluded from this stiffy producing activity.
Of course. And she might enjoy it too.
She might. She wouldn't be able to do it with an erection, though.
No.
So perhaps...
Without getting into the nitty gritty, there are other things, of course, like, and maybe this is what she wants to,
Well, that's the sad thing, I think, about this story too, isn't it? Is perhaps, what if the wife has similar dreams?
Well, it's a story we've heard so many times before, Andrew. A story as old as time itself. I've heard this so many times. If I had $1, I'd be a rich man. For every time I've heard this story.
The dancing doctor.
Dancing doctor with a massive erection. Dancing with an erection. It's like pissing on the shack. You do it one time and you become addicted to it.
Look, I think is the question, should he tell them? Is that what we're asking? Oh, look, no. If it's making him that happy, and if they're none the wiser, if they're fine, I don't think it's doing any harm to anybody at all.
Yep.
Except perhaps the elastic in the doctor's underwear, mate. But
they're getting looser and looser as time goes on.
Yeah. So I think why would you change? Unless he's feeling bad. I mean, the fact that he's written the confession, though, that's the other side of the coin.
He's definitely feeling bad about it. So maybe it's his own harmless fun and he doesn't need to tell anyone about it.
That's what that's my read of this, Sammy. Yeah. I think let's let the dancing doctor dance.
In his white suit on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
If you had to make one of these a film, if you had to pitch one of these as a beautiful film, Andrew Hansen, which one would you go for? Would you go the pissing down of the shack, or would you go, well, not the pissing down of the shack, the burning down of the shack? It was meant to be pissed on, or would you go for the dancing doctor?
Oh, look, I think I can see the Hollywood version would definitely be the burning shack. I mean, it's got a terrific scene.
Yep.
The flames. It's got the shack going up.
Yep.
It's got the betrayal. It's got Eliza not turning up. It's got
got that wonderful scene where someone doesn't turn up. When nothing happens.
It's the being stood. That's right. It's the being stood up scene. I can see that. I can see Zach. Who do you think would play these characters? I mean, I can. Taylor, I guess, is sort of anxious young.
Well, I mean, it depends if you want to go for the older version, because they'll obviously flash forward to them, playing. I think you get the Stranger Kids involved, the Stranger Things kids.
Good idea.
Get them involved.
Yes, they'd be good, wouldn't they? I can definitely
catch them while they're still young.
I can see Mike, playing the role of the young Taylor.
The young Taylor.
Anxious,
And and Zach could be the cool kid. I keep forgetting his name, but
I think so. Billy. I think it is. I think Billy could play the older. You could play the younger Zach, probably, actually.
The younger Zach, yeah. What about adult? Like when they grow up, who would you get to play Taylor and Zach as they grow older?
Well, this is the 25-year-old Taylor. It needs to be a sort of anxious 20. I mean, it would have been Michael Cera a few years ago, but he's probably now 60.
What about Jesse Eisenberg?
Oh, good choice.
Yeah,
good choice.
Jesse Eisenberg, a bit anxious. He's got a good job now. He's working
fantastic.
hard.
Really good.
And Zac Efron maybe as Zach.
And Zac Efron as Zach.
Easy for him to play. He's got the same name.
Absolutely perfect. And who would we get to play Eliza who doesn't turn up? It doesn't really matter. She's off screen.
Yeah. I mean, she could play, the older version could still be around. She could still be, working at their local diner or something,
That's true. Well, for the movie version, I think Eliza would be the prison guard. You'd be liberal with the truth, I think, with the big screen adaptation.
Right. All right, I'm saying Jennifer Coolidge.
Jennifer Coolidge.
Coolidge or Kathy Bates.
Perfect, absolutely. Or maybe, one of the Game of Thrones, one of the Stark girls perhaps could be
sure.
Sansa Stark as being, showing up as Eliza perhaps.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've just been watching a lot of Killing Eve. What about Sandra Oh? Put her in there.
Hey, not bad.
She's got whatever her name is, the Comer, the Jodie Comer or whatever her name is, the one who plays
not a clue.
The assassin in that. She's a fantastic actor.
Yeah, right. Yes. And the movie version could be done in like 14 languages too.
It could.
Especially the pissing scene should be done in a bevy of different languages.
Well, that is just something that we all go through as kids, like we can all relate to that scene where they're all pissing on a shack.
So who would direct this masterpiece? I mean, is it a J.J. Abrams?
Well, yeah, it's a J.J. Abrams, or it's got the Stranger Things brothers all over it as well. It depends if we're going horror, we're going comedy.
It's not the most supernatural story I've ever heard.
No,
I don't know. Actually, it's more of a rom-com, isn't it? It's
That's true. Why don't we give it to Baz Luhrmann?
Baz Luhrmann.
He could really mix things up.
Great bit. Throw a few songs in there.
Real fast-paced scenes, a lot of cutting.
A lot of yes, and yet still immensely boring.
Yeah.
I think that'd be great.
You can't cut that. That was his thing for Australia. You can't cut that. But yeah, maybe that's the way forward. Baz Luhrmann directing this masterpiece, which it'll be much like a Stand By Me film. It will be one of those, coming of age stories.
Story, yes.
Well, it all started with pissing on a shack.
Well, there's your title.
Yep.
Pissing on a shack.
Pissing on a shack.
I can see the Oscars rolling in
as the boys walk down to the shack. We'll ride down to the shack.
I can already see it. Meryl Streep announcing Best Picture, and the award goes to Pissing on a Shack.
Well, she could play the mum. She could play Taylor's mum.
Hey.
Yeah.
Not
and she
bad.
keeps shouting at him going, "You changed that day, Taylor. What happened? What happened down that shack?" That would be a beautiful scene as well.
It would. And I'd like the first half hour of the film would be wonderful, establishing that Taylor's 25.
That's a good half hour of setup. Yeah. Well, at the end of that, Andrew Hansen, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. If people want to find you, how do they find Andrew Hansen on the socials?
It was a joy. I've made a Facebook page recently, Sammy. I've made one. Yes, I've got one now.
You've got one. Great.
You just look up Andrew Hansen with an EN on the end of it.
Great.
And there it is. I do Twitter. Very, very occasionally I dip into the Insta.
On the Insta?
Should I get a TikTok? I don't know.
Yeah, go on, get a TikTok.
About this,
get a TikTok as well. I think once we're maybe a few more weeks into isolation, get a TikTok as well.
Then I will. I will when it all starts to fall apart.
And where can people find your podcast as well, Andrew Hansen?
Well, this is the thing. It's a bit like finding a bookshop, isn't it? How do you do this?
How do you do this?
It's wherever you find podcasts.
It's on Apple Podcasts.
Is that where you look?
Yeah, Apple Podcasts.
Search me.
Spotify.
It's on all those things. I tried to find it on Sonos and I couldn't.
Right. Okay. Well, I'll keep looking for you if you want.
Can you? Have you got Sonos?
I haven't got Sonos, but I'll get it just so I can search it.
It's not there, so don't look there. But it's everywhere else. It seems to be everywhere else.
You're like Taylor telling us everything where not to look and then not telling us where we should be looking. Well, Andrew Hansen, thank you so much for joining me in isolation. I hope you join me sometime soon.
Me too, Sammy. It's been a joy.
Thanks you, Andrew Hansen.
Thanks for the confessions.
Don't
go pissing on any shacks.